All right. Welcome. This is Jr. McNair to another entrepreneur spotlight. Listen, this is a great day today because I have a wonderful person on, Mr. Jordan Thomas. And let me tell you something, guys. I didn't realize how lucrative, junk was. You know what I'm saying? And just, how important junk was. And I mean, just the whole recycling thing. I mean, just the whole myriad of things until I met this one older man, and he was probably one of the wealthiest men in Atlanta. But how he made his fortune was with junk. And we have a wonderful guest on with us today, Jordan Thomas from Southside Junk Removal. And I just want to kind of just get him in here so y'all can learn about what he does and how he does it and how he came to be in the junk business. So what's up, Jordan?
What's going on, man? How you doing?
Hey man, doing great, man. Doing great, man. Listen, man. I'm excited to talk to you about these things, man. I want to kind of just back up a little bit before we kind of get into the junk stuff, man. And just kind of just give us some background on you, like just where you from, all of those pieces. Just kind of give me some background. How where you grew up, all these kind of things on this end.
Cool, yeah. So I grew up in Clayton County. I've always been in Atlanta and Georgia,
Clayco,
and
Clayco.
yeah. There you go. I went to Jonesboro High School, so I'm a Cardinal. Yes, straight out of high school, man. I went straight into the fire department. So from there, worked there for 3 years, got my certification, state certified, became a paramedic, EMT paramedic. So my background pretty much is like emergency medicine, responding to sick people, running into burning buildings, things of that nature. And we branched off into junk removal in 2021. So kind of a change of speed, but still helping people out. So still getting to do things that I love.
That's amazing, man. So when you just even getting into, did you always want to be a paramedic? Like, how did that kind of really happen?
Yeah, I always wanted to be a firefighter. That was always my thing from when I was young. So
Okay.
yeah, when I was 15 or when I was 16, I was in the Explorer program. So it's like a
Okay.
program for teenagers while you're still in high school. You can ride along with, firefighters and kind of see what the job was like. So I did that, loved it. And as soon as I graduated high school, I just applied and hopped right in with DeKalb County. So it was always a passion of mine. Once you get into fire department, it's always a plus if you can get like the EMS training. So becoming a paramedic, that just kind of came with it. And I love that as well. Just learning about anatomy, physiology, learning about the human body, being able to treat people, give drugs, so things of that nature.
That's amazing. So now tell me about what happened from, okay, I'm at the fire department doing my thing, saving people's lives, all that kind of good stuff. And then so now, how did you get into junk? Did you go straight into junk? I mean, so how did it, tell me about just how did you, was this your first entrepreneurial endeavor? Like, just kind of lead me down that path.
Yeah, so for us, when 2020, right when COVID was hitting, I was working on the ambulance. So I stopped being a firefighter, like a career firefighter in 2019, just to have a better schedule, be at home with my wife at night, things of that nature. So when 2020 came, COVID hit, we were at home, and I wanted to do something that was going to get me a little bit of extra income. And so we started with a lawn care company, and that was something I was just doing on the side. And my goal was super low. I just wanted to make an extra 150 every day. So
Okay.
no matter what I did, I just wanted $150 to be in my pocket when I got home. So
Okay.
we were doing some of everything. We were cleaning gutters. I mean, we were up on people's roofs. We were cutting hedges, bushes, cutting grass, picking up things from Home Depot and delivering it for people. So just some of everything. And as it got into the wintertime, I burnt my hand when I was at home cooking.
Mm,
So I had a really big um, second degree burn on my finger. So I
mm,
wasn't able to work on the ambulance. So I
mm.
had to just work on my business for like 2 weeks. So I was cutting grass with one hand, weed
Oh
eating,
man.
trying to press the button, not use my thumb. And that was a week where we kind of turned. I hopped in it for like 2 weeks, and I never went back to the ambulance job. So that was my first endeavor with just being like a full time entrepreneur.
Wow.
Uh, that same winter, a few weeks after this happened, I learned about junk removal. And we did our first job. It was for
How did
175.
you learn about junk removal? I mean, you just watching the internet? You just on YouTube? I mean,
Yeah, so somebody came up to me. He was talking to me about it. So he was like, "Man, I got a guy that needs some stuff removed right now. You know, all you got to do is just go pick it up." So we went to the guy's house, and the job was for 175. It was like we picked up a lot of stuff too, and the guy was super happy to give us the money. So I did some research on it. Just after that, I was like, "Let me just look to see what it is." So we were calling it the wrong thing at first. We were calling it a haul away, but
okay.
when I did some research on it, it was like, no, it's an actual industry for it. It's junk removal. And I watched some videos, and it was just a lot of people on there talking about how they had like big companies doing it, like dumpster rentals, junk removal. You know, I see people with truck and trailers. I see people with big dump trucks, like just the whole industry. So I watched some YouTube videos for about a week, and I was like, yeah, this I want to give it a shot. So I had already seen that the money was there. As far as like that first job that we had done, I did a few more jobs in the span of that week, just letting people know, hey, if you guys need something removed, I can do it. We would pull up to people like if they had trash on the curb, we would ask them if they already had somebody to pick those things up, and we were just hungry for it. Me and one other guy had working with me at the time, so that was just kind of like the beginning parts of it and how we kind of discovered it, and it's taken off from there. So
Man. So how soon, because you were still doing lawn care, so how soon from the time you were doing lawn care did you transition 100% into junk and say, hey, you know what, we no longer doing this lawn care business? And what did you do with the clients? You just kind of, just
yeah, we serviced our clients for 1 full year. So the spring of 2021, we serviced our clients. We had 175 clients, and
wow.
so yeah, so we serviced them the whole year. And once the grass stopped growing that year, we let it go. So it was we just kind of dissolved it. Enough we didn't have a great enough system in place to sell it to somebody. It
Mhm.
just kind of dissolved. But we told all of the clients we wouldn't be coming back out to in the following year, and everybody understood. So it was a great opportunity for us to market to those 75 people though, like, hey, we're switching industries. So if you need, X, Y, and Z done as far as junk removal, let us know. And we got clients from that. So
Okay,
it
that's good.
it
That's
wasn't
good.
a total loss.
That's good. That's good. So now that you're in it, I mean, what happened after that? Like, because how did it, like, when you got in it, and you talking about this is 2021, so this is not that long ago. And so what happened after that? Kind of give me, how it happened and how stuff started growing, and did you have, equipment, vehicles? Like, how did all this stuff kind of happen?
So it's a very interesting story. So the timeline for 2021 was rough. I mean, it was a tough transition. So
Why was it so rough?
we had trucks going down. So we had a pickup truck. So January we had a pickup truck that we purchased, and then well, no, I'm sorry, November of 2020 we bought a pickup truck. This was the lawn care truck.
Okay.
So we had that in November. February we purchased I'm sorry, January we purchased another truck. This was a diesel pickup truck just for junk removal, and we bought a trailer with it like a day later. And it
Mm,
was a dump trailer, so it went up and down, so we didn't have to like touch the stuff twice. That's what they say in our industry, like you don't want to have to touch it twice.
okay.
So we fill the trailer up, hit the button, lift it up, and we pull forward, and it dumps everything out. So we had that truck in January. It went into the shop for the first time in February, and it was in the shop for about a month. So that was kind of interesting. This was our first time that it happened, but it was okay. Like we just kind of was focusing on cutting grass for those few weeks, and then we hopped back into it when the truck came out of the shop. Truck went back in the shop in May,
When you
and
said
this
the first time, I was like, it's got to be a story to it.
so the truck went back in the shop in May, and it was in the shop that time for about 7 months.
Mm,
And this is a story for anybody who does anything like as far as transportation or anything where you have to manage vehicles. Having a great mechanic is like the biggest tool that you need to have before you even put a truck on the road. Before you turn a wheel, you got to have a great mechanic. So we
wow.
didn't have a great mechanic, and
Okay.
so we put the truck in the shop, and it sat there for like 2.5 months. And he made progress on it. He diagnosed what was wrong with it, but he just couldn't get enough time to like finish it because it was a small shop. So we had to take the truck from him and take it to another shop. But that shop was like, hey, we can't trust his work. We've got to put the truck back together, re-diagnose it, and then we're going to go ahead and fix it, no matter if it's the same problem or not. But you got to wait 3 weeks just for us to, put you in the queue for us to see you. So we were like, okay, we got to start over. We got to get out of this situation. So that's what we did. We put it back in the shop. We had to pay them to put the truck back together. All of the parts that were missing in this swap, we had to pay for the parts to get put back on. They got it back together, but it still wasn't working. They diagnosed it as the same thing as the first mechanic, took it apart, fixed it, and we got the truck back, like I said, like 7 months later. So through that process, we were renting a Home Depot truck, I think, for 26 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. It was crazy. So horrible decision. So we were spending pretty much like $1,000 a week on a Home Depot truck. And
Wow.
you're really not supposed to be like towing with Home Depot trucks
Home
either. So
Depot truck. Yeah.
yeah. So it was a mess. But we for me, it really just showed how great the industry was, because we were making so much money, it didn't matter. We were
Yeah.
just like, hey, let's just keep rolling. We got to keep going.
Yeah.
So it was a great year. We learned a lot of stuff, like about how to run a business, but also too just how to be resilient, and then also just a lot about the industry in itself. We got the truck back, like I said. So this was like November, December-ish. We got the truck back.
Of
Okay, cool.
2021.
Of 2021. With that, so here's another cool part of this story. So we got into the junk removal industry in January. That was the first time we really found out about it. We ordered our first dump truck in April, so 4 months later, and
Okay.
then that truck got delivered to us in September. So within our first year, we had a nice truck. It had the logos on it. It was nice and pretty orange. Everybody loved it.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. And it really just, like I said, it goes to show how good the industry was and how great we had of a first year. The truck got in an accident less than 14 days later.
Oh man, that's crazy.
So we got in an accident in October, and it didn't come back until March of 2022.
Mm.
So we lost our first pickup truck. It was down pretty much like all of 2021 except for 3 months. Yeah. Then when we first got our new truck, it went down in 2021. It didn't come back until March of 2022.
Mm.
So what we ended up having, the other part of this was a part of the reason why we got rid of the lawn care. So we had our first pickup truck that we were using for lawn care. It went into the shop, and um, it was having some issues, some small issues. And I think the week before we got an oil change on it, and we took it to one of those little quick places where it's like 5 minute oil
Oh
change,
man, oh
and
yeah, yeah.
and they want to sell you on everything. They want to put windshield wipers on. They want to give you, they want to sell you on everything. So they were like, "Do you want to do an oil flush?" It's like a thing where you clean out your engine and it just clears all the gunk and debris out of it. So I was like, "Yeah, why not?" I'm a young guy. I don't know too much about it, and I'm not really into cars at this point either.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So we do the oil flush, and about maybe 2 days later, the truck is just running weird. It's like it won't stay on. It's running hot. So we put it in the shop, and they just can't figure out what's going on with it. They
Hmm.
they replace. We do like spark plugs. They put a new head gasket, and it's still overheating.
Hmm.
So all of this happens all in the same year, and that was just like a lot for us. Like 2021 was just it was a lot. So we did pretty decent, like revenue wise, but as far as just our operation, it was super super difficult. um, and then in December of 2021, the same truck that had gone in the shop twice that year, it went into the shop again, and it had to get a new engine put in it. So
Mm.
yeah, so that
Man,
was a
one thing after another, man. Dude.
yeah.
But you kept going.
We kept going. We made it through 2021. So 2022 was a lot better of a year for us. Once we did get our first truck out of the shop, like the logo dump truck, it didn't give us any other issues. It ran perfectly. We had good drivers behind the wheel, so we didn't have any issues with that. It ran the entire year. We purchased a second truck like November, December of 2022.
Mhm.
And like I said, that one was running well also. So we sold our pickup trucks, got rid of that headache. And, it just, we were able to kind of build from there. But 2021 taught us a lot of things. It taught us about, like I said, resilience, taught us how to be effective and how important it is really to have a good mechanic. It was also Like I said, our first year we didn't have branding.
Mhm.
So January of 2022, we actually got the branding Southside Junk Removal with the orange. So everything kind of started to meld together in 2022.
Mhm.
When we got our second truck, I got it in November. Somebody rear-ended me in December, so I had to put that one in the shop. But
Oh man.
here's the thing about it though. It didn't sit in the shop for 7 months this time. It only
Okay.
was in the shop for about 2 weeks because I already
Oh man.
had everything. Yeah, I already had everything set up. I had a good mechanic. I had a good repair shop. So I learned from the first mistake.
Yeah.
That's how important it is. It was the difference between like a 2 to 3 week stay versus like a 7 month stay. So
Yeah. Wow.
um, yeah, so that was cool. So 2022, we rolled. We grew our team, got a lot of experience, had our branding, which really helped us out. And pretty much from there, it's just been up. 2023, we did the same, did great numbers. Every year we've grown about 40%, and this year we're on track to grow 40% as well. We purchased our third truck this year, and yeah, we just been trying to focus on really growing the quality of our team this year. So that's
Man.
pretty much a overview of the journey we've had so far. But it's been great. It's been fun. This is like you said. This is my first time being an entrepreneur. I consider the lawn care, the junk removal is kind of like the same type of industry, a service based industry, and it's still my first baby. I call it so.
Man, that's amazing, man. I'm gonna tell you, man. Like, to see, the one thing I got from a lot of this was the fact that, as Mike Tyson say, everybody got a plan till they get punched in the face. It's
Right.
you rolling and you going and you getting all these things being thrown at you, and it sets you back some, but you keep coming back, and it sets you back some, but you keep coming back. And the thing that I love about this is the fact that, if you're, and that's why I always tell people all the time, keep making money. Like, as long as you're keeping at it and putting fuel in the tank, you can still go. You may not be going in one particular vehicle or another, but you can still go. And so this is what I tell people every day: put money in the tank every day. Put money in the tank, and that's what y'all were doing by consistently going out there and just being in a great industry like you're in. I didn't know the industry was such a great industry. And speaking of that, I was looking at y'all Google, man, and I'm telling you, dude, like I've seen people with 4.7, 4 point. And if anybody, look, if I got a restaurant that's above like a 4.0, I'm like, that's a good restaurant. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And so, if I see one 4.5, I'm like, I got to just go just because of the 4.5. But man, I rarely see any businesses, any kind of business in any kind of field that's above like 4.7, maybe, 4.8, maybe, rarely. But and sometimes you do see companies that are 5, but that they only have like 5 reviews. You know what I'm saying? And it's probably their cousin, their auntie, their uncle, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And them, doing a review. And but to have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of 5-star reviews, man, and y'all have a full 5-star, okay, 5 stars, like, what the world, man? How did that happen? I mean,
Yeah, I mean that's something we just take pride in. Every time we go out to a customer, we're asking them for reviews, and if there's anything that's not up to par, we gotta bring it up. So we go above and beyond. We wow the customer. We're coming in with our uniforms. Everybody's nice, neat, and professional. Our trucks are clean when we arrive. We have a pricing sheet that we use, so everything's always consistent. It's a system. You can tell that we care about what we do, and I put together something to where every time you call us out, you're going to get 5-star service. So that's really our number one thing that we prioritize.
so I'm glad that you got on this. So talk us through what a customer can expect. Like, they go online, boom, boom, ring, ring, ring. They call in Southside Junk Removal, and then what can they expect? Walk me through a process of what a customer can expect.
So it should be pretty hassle free. All you have to do is just have the need to throw some things away. Once you call us, you're going to speak with either myself or Mackenzie. Got a pretty tight team, and we're going to pretty much just ask you a few questions about your project, where the item's located, what city are you in, things of that nature. And we want to get out on site. We want to be able to see the things that you have, because the pricing is volume based, so it's based on how much space it'll take up on the truck. So we really need to come out and look at it so we can get a good assessment. From there, we'll give you a straightforward price, and if you agree with it, our guys just go ahead and get to work. If you've checked us out on Instagram, you see the time lapse videos. People they really like those videos because it shows just how fast the stuff gets out of there, and we're super aggressive with that. And then once we get this stuff loaded on the truck, we stack it nice and neat. If you ever seen a game of Tetris, it's like a good game of Tetris. And
Exactly.
then we
One of
collect
my
payment. Yeah, so it's a super easy process, pretty hassle free. Just call us out. We get you a free quote. If you want to do it, we load it up, take it out. So
That's amazing, man. So now you talked about, so you don't, it's not by size. I mean, it's not by weight. It's more so by size.
yeah, it's by volume. So it's not by weight. No matter if you're putting the amount of space that a washing machine might take up on the truck, washing machine is pretty heavy. No matter if it's that, or no matter if it's like we're stacking in 20 cardboard boxes in that same amount of space, we just charge based on the space that the items take up. So it's a lot more competitive than weight, because you do have some super heavy loads, and that can start to add up on you pretty quickly. But we don't charge you by weight, just based on the space it'll take up on the truck. So it's kind of
Oh
like
man,
real estate.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's amazing. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I think that's good too, man. Because I'm like, shoot. Because if I'm like, okay, if thinking about moving or doing whatever, and I'm like, okay, I have rent a U-Haul truck, and I'm like, hey, as long as I can fit this thing in that U-Haul truck, I'm good. So if as long as you know that you can fit it inside of one of the trucks, then they should be good, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Totally,
It
man.
definitely.
Well, listen, man. Like, so now, like, tell us about, like, your process, like, and you have a great team. Tell me a little about your team, and how did you go about, like, building your team out, and maybe some of the things that you've learned, and some of the things that maybe didn't go as, things that went well and things that didn't go so well. So.
Yeah. So from my perspective, I've always heard people say your team is everything, and
Mhm,
always take care of your good people. I can't say that it's always been easy to take care of everyone when you're first starting a business.
mhm,
Sometimes money's tight. Sometimes your team members, they don't understand the unexpected expenses when the truck does go in the shop, or it just becomes a norm for them when you're like, yeah, the truck's is it's still not ready, still not ready. Yeah, it's been 4 months, it's still not ready. Like, they don't really understand 4 months of a financial burden of you having to pay for a U-Haul, or Home Depot pickup truck, you know. Um, and so it can be kind of difficult to take care of guys when they're saying, hey, I need a little bit more money, or I've had something unexpected in my life come up. But um, as far as trying to, I guess, build a good team, I think it really just first is going to start with you being a good leader. And
mhm,
that's something that I think is important for each individual entrepreneur. You've got to work on being a good leader yourself, leading yourself. And from there, going out and finding people that have the same values as you, but not looking for somebody that's just like you. So
mhm.
going out and finding people that are strong in areas where you may be weak, that can be, just a great opportunity for you to find good people that can kind of help to balance you out. So that's what our goal has kind of been, to find people that are good at things that I might not be so great at, or just finding people that are really just dedicated to helping the team and having the same mindset and understanding what it takes to build a small business up. So you're not going to come in just making the same amount of money that you would coming into another company at a certain stature, I guess you could say. Like, you've
Mhm.
got to be willing to grow with the team. So it takes time to find a really good team. For us, like, as far as bad experiences, sometimes we keep people a little bit longer than we should, just because we're really trying to give them a chance.
Most
So
definitely.
that usually is going to be something that's going to, like,
I've
suck
been
the
there,
joy
two
out of
hands, two
it.
hands. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that can be pretty detrimental to you because that person can be hurting your business or those people can be hurting you. And you just don't realize that, hey, if I just, went ahead and had a conversation and, told this person that our views weren't lining up and just parted ways with them and got somebody else into that same position, they could take that position and flourish it. And it would take away all of the problems that you had associated with that. So,
Mhm. Man, I heard something Steve Jobs, he was saying, he said, when I get people on the team and I'm rolling with them, he said, we may have a difference of opinion on something and they're thinking this way and we're going this way and they're thinking this way and we're going this way. He said, I never jumped in and said, I'm the CEO. Da, 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 da. He said, I've just sat down with him and said, hey, you know what? We seeing eye to eye. We're not seeing eye to eye. Gotta let you go. And so
right.
and that was the whole thing. And I thought about that. I was like, man, I think as small businesses, we have to know that. I think we still a lot of times as small businesses tend to care so much about people that we can care less about the company, right? And people are very important, but if you don't take care of that business, it ain't gonna be no business.
Right.
People ain't gonna have nowhere to work, And so and that's key, man. That's something. So are you looking for you have any spots in the company right now that you're looking for anybody to come in and fill?
Well, we just hired somebody today, so
Okay.
we're actually not looking for anybody else for the rest of this year. Everything that we're doing is kind of looking at the top of next year. Um, we're building out some positions internally, so that's really what we're trying to do is just cultivate the people that we have already on our team.
Okay, that's awesome, man. So on your journey, you like I work, my wife and I work together in a business, okay, and so and I know your wife works with you in the business also. Like, tell me about that experience, man, and how that came to happen, and just kind of give me some insight there.
Yeah, so my wife, she's a nurse full time, and I mean she's been the biggest help that you could just imagine. In the heat of COVID, eh, the medical field was just it was a
Slammed.
jungle. Yeah,
It was
it was a jungle. So um, just for her to be able to just tough it out through that while the unsureties of me hopping into a business, like you don't really know how when you're a first time entrepreneur, you don't have a plan. I didn't have a plan, I should say.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
we were just kind of stumbling into something. And so you imagine if you say the word stumbling, you're gonna keep stumbling until you kind of figure out where you are and kind of get your footing. And that takes time. It's not like an overnight thing, it's not a 1 month thing. It may take you years to really get your footing in an industry and figure out what your identity is. So she's been supportive of us from day one. Anytime I've pivoted and hey, we're gonna do this, and then I'm like, actually, you know what, we're gonna do this. She's been supportive of me there, and I wouldn't be able to do it without her. So that's been just her support has been one thing, and always having her like she's always ready to help out. She's a she doesn't mind getting on the truck and having to pick things up if that's what it takes to get the
Oh,
job
she
done.
get out there and make it happen too.
She'll make it happen. So
Okay, that's what I'm talking about. That's a winner right there.
yeah, yep,
Well,
yep. So it's a it's a blessing. That's all I can really just keep saying. It's a blessing. So she's really been supportive, and the goal is for me to be able to position us to where she can like not have to work anymore in that field, and just bring her into the business 100% full time. So
man, that's awesome. That's awesome. So, in your runnings now, like just as an entrepreneur, like what have you learned the most about being an entrepreneur? Like what was the maybe the most surprising thing or that you've learned being an entrepreneur?
well, I can say like I said at the beginning, my goal was to make $150.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
um, to go from that mindset to now having a mindset of like improving myself, it's to the point where it's not even like a financial thing. Like me being a better leader, it's not motivated by just compensation. So having a team of people around you, they're depending on you to be able to make tough decisions. That may be a firing decision. Like, hey, this person doesn't need to be with us anymore. My team around me may have already known that for months, but I've been like, no, give them a chance, or no, let's try this first. So really Me being uh, trying to build myself, I guess you could say, really working on myself. That's been a big thing that I've learned about, because you're only as good as your leader, your leadership, really. So
Mm.
that's been a really good point that I've learned in this business as being an entrepreneur. The other thing is, don't undervalue your services. So sometimes, as an entrepreneur, you may feel like, man, I wouldn't pay myself X amount of dollars to do this job, or, I wouldn't pay four, five, $600, $1,000 to get this stuff moved out. I would just rent a U-Haul and do it myself. But I was watching a video yesterday. The guy was like, well, you're not your target audience. If
Mhm.
you were selling to yourself, you wouldn't have this business, but you sell to
Mhm.
people that have different values. So their time may be more important than them going out and having to go rent a U-Haul. It may be a thing of status. Like, no, I don't go to the dump. I don't do that. I have people that come do that. So everybody and having different mindsets is not always going to be about you. So that's another thing that I've learned is like broaden your perspective of how the world works. It's not all from your shoes, but it's different perspectives that build up the society that we live in.
So what made you get to that point to where you started valuing yourself? And or was it like an epiphany, or did it happen over time, or did it was just like all of a sudden, like how did you start really valuing your services and and you and what you do and having an understanding of what the value on it was?
Well, the value of our services, I feel like that's come from just really being, I guess, the product of the environment. So looking around and seeing other companies, seeing what they're charging, and seeing, how our prices haven't always been competitive.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're charging sometimes like 80% less than the competition in the beginning,
Mm,
like 2021. So
wow.
now just bringing our prices up to be as competitive as everyone else around us, that just took some, looking around and doing some proper research. Like I said, not stumbling into it, but if we
Mhm.
had started with doing some product research, we probably would have known what the going rate was for junk removal before we got started.
Mhm.
So that's a piece of it. But the other piece is just having a good board of advisors. As we've gotten a little bit further into business, like this year, especially, I've talked to a lot of business advisors. I've been in some mastermind groups, and having people that are expressing those things and kind of teaching from their mistakes. That's really helped me to say, okay, no, I do understand. I have to, um, you know, put into myself in order to be able to put back into my team. So, me being balanced, me being healthy, all of those things take a toll. Like if I'm not at a physical peak, when I first started with junk removal, I'm sorry, when I first started with lawn care, there were plenty of times where me as a leader, I'm not showing leadership qualities. I've got an employee coming to report to work and I'm asleep. He's like calling me like, hey, you ready to go?
Yeah.
So it's almost crazy to think about. It's like unimaginable now, but going from that to like having a strict regimen, making sure I'm in shape, making sure I'm, waking up every morning, productive, ready to work and be of service to the team, just really that shift in mindset has come from many advisors around me, and just some good old fashioned experience, just doing it every day. So I think it's kind of a blend of a lot of things that's kind of helped me to be where I am now.
So wow. So yeah, when you're talking about, I mean, one thing I've heard you say already probably about five or seven times is leadership, man. Like you talked about leadership. That word leadership keeps coming up. You talk about leadership. I mean, so tell me about what that means to you and why is it so important? I mean, and when did it become so important?
Well, I've always valued leadership just coming from the fire department. So you got to understand the way the fire department is set up. You train. When I was at DeKalb County, we trained just specifically with fighting fire for about 20 weeks. That's about how long it takes for you to learn how to be a firefighter.
Mm,
But when you really think about how dangerous of a job that is, 20 weeks isn't is nowhere near enough time for you to learn how to do the job effectively.
mhm,
When we do go in training, it's a controlled scenario. So we're burning clean materials, pallets, straw, cardboard. These are things that are clean. They don't produce a lot of smoke, and the environments are controlled just because of state requirements. So the fire can only be at a certain temperature, before it's unsafe and inoperable for you to be trained in those environments. The first day that you go into the field, and you're going into an environment where everything around you is made out of plastic. All of the
Mhm.
things inside of our house are made out of materials that aren't clean. You've got accelerants in the house. People are storing gas cans in the garage. They got fireworks from that they were saving from last year sitting in the garage. You've got some of everything, and the environment isn't an environment that you've ever seen before. So in the
Mhm.
training ground, you walk through and you look around and you're like, okay, here's where they have this, and here's where they have this, and it's a scenario, so you already know what you're getting into. So it's two totally different worlds. And when you coming in and you're fighting your first fire, you have to be with somebody that knows what they're doing. It's just no way around it.
Mhm.
So that was like my first understanding of, like, I'm trusting literally a stranger that I may not have known for only like a few weeks with my life. The first week that I'm out in the fire department.
Mhm.
So my first fire, I'll tell you this quick story. My first fire, I had been in the field for about, I want to say it was right around 2 months, and I hadn't fought a fire yet, which is pretty kind of strange. Like usually we're fighting them a lot more frequently than that. So I
Mhm.
had been there for about 2 months, and we finally get one, and I got sent out to a station. Sometimes, like when people will call out, they'll have to, for staffing reasons, they'll move people around. So my home station was 8, but I got sent to 22. So I get to 22. This is a slow station. This is a station where they claim the lazy people go, and it's not really the station you want to be at to fight your first fire. They have people that they call aggressive in the fire department. These are the ones that kind of stay on top of everything. They do their training. They're in shape. And then
Mhm.
you kind of you have another part of the department. They call that just um, that may be like a death crew. It's like a crew you wouldn't want to fight fire with, because it's you're risking your life
I don't
basically.
want to be on the death crew.
So I was on the death crew that day. So the fire comes out. It's an apartment fire, and we're gonna be the last unit to get there. We could just tell from how far it was. So I'm excited, man. I run to the truck, hop in. I'm getting dressed. My captain, he's waking up from his nap. He's stretching, using the bathroom before we get leaving. He doesn't care. So we get going, and I'm excited. I'm dressed. I'm hanging out the window, ready to go. We get there, and my captain's just kind of like just haphazardly moving around. So we get an assignment. We're checking for extension, and then we end up becoming the primary attack unit. So we check for extension. Basically, you're just looking to see has fire extended to any of the exterior units. So um, we're going in pretty much just pulling sheetrock to see if fire's in the ceiling, if it's in the walls. Do we see any smoke coming through the eaves? Like, we're looking for that type of stuff. Once we do that, then we go in, we take a fire hose, and we go in and we start extinguishing fire. So this is my first time being on the fire scene. This is my first time just doing anything fire related. This is where I say having good leadership comes in. So the first thing my captain tells me to do, he says, kick this door down. Now in recruit school, you're never supposed to kick a door because you'll get injured. You can overextend your knee, and you being an athlete, it can get
Yeah,
kind of dangerous.
totally.
So he's like, kick the door down. So I did it. I was ready to go. So
Yeah.
I kicked the door down. We get in. We check for extension. Don't see anything. I think this is a product of bad leadership, though. He shouldn't have had me doing that, But it's two different things from learning from the book, learning in the field. We
Mhm.
go in and we start extinguishing the fire. So I get inside of this building, and it's not roaring. It's not like just flames kicking everywhere, but you still see fire in some places. So when I go in, it's just black. I don't see anything. I'm looking around, and my captain's in my ear. He's just like, put the water on it. Put the water on it. I've got no type of instruction. I don't know what I'm doing. When you're inside of a burning building, you're supposed to be sounding the floor, because it could be compromised.
Mhm.
If it was just on fire, it could be thin. You make a false step, and it's over with.
Done deal. Yeah.
So I'm opening it up, and I'm letting this water flow, and I'm just kind of listening. They say listen for the sizzle. So I'm listening, and I take a step, and I get kind of stuck. My hose is stuck. So I'm kind of pulling it a little harder. So I take a big pull, and I step. My leg goes to the floor. Boom.
Oh man.
So I scream. I'm like, oh, I go down, and my captain runs up to me. He's like, you okay? You okay? So I've caught myself in the floorboards, kind of weird, like, and I'm just dangling there. So they pull me out, and they drag me out. We come out, we leave the nozzle, like we just get out of there. So, we got to do like incident report, we got to do a follow-up or whatever the case. And I'm fine. Like I said, this is my first time. So I'm super excited. I'm just like, I'm thinking that's just a normal thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
from being at the fire department 3 years though, it, you know, you look back on that situation and you're like, that was just not
That was
how it was
crazy.
supposed to
Like
be
that
done.
was
Yeah, that was, yeah, like that was not how it was supposed to be. That was horrible leadership. That was just not proper planning. It was no communication. Like there was a lot of ways we could have avoided that. And from an experience standpoint, no matter if he wasn't going to communicate or not, he wasn't having good practices. Maybe because, you know, he got comfortable, or, you know, he done it so many times to where it's like, ah, I can get away with not having to sound the floor. I don't got to make sure this thing is intact, you know. So
correct.
that was my first experience with leadership, and all through that process, those 3 years, it taught me a lot about leadership, having the right people in place, the difference between having somebody that knew the territory versus not knowing the territory, and all of that stuff really, I still value it to this day, when it comes to, you know, my company, what my company will require, and what it really looks like to be a leader. So sometimes you're getting guys like outside of junk removal, sometimes you may get guys that come onto your team. These guys don't know how to be responsible adults, they don't know how to be responsible men, they don't know how to be good employees. They don't know how to show up to work on time, even when something goes wrong, or not, you know, not wanting to leave work as soon as the smallest inconvenience happens. Sometimes it may be something that has nothing to do with them. Oh, my mom's third cousin just broke her toenail, and it's like they want to leave immediately. So sometimes it takes you, you know, having those long late night conversations or early morning conversations and kind of coaching people up to say, hey, you know, here's what the expectations are, here's some of the things to consider, here's a wider perspective of how things, you know, have to function. So i think um I think my understanding of leadership, like over the past 3 years, that's really been something that I've valued, because I've come to appreciate that not everyone is at the same level of maturity as you, as me. Even though I'm a young business owner, you know, I have pretty high expectations sometimes, but it's like you're dealing with people that may be older than you or younger than you, and they're not as disciplined. They're not as, you know, driven by the same drive that you have. Their goals, they aren't motivated by the same things. So yeah, I think cohesively, just from a leadership perspective, that's been a big thing that I've tried to instill. And like, especially now, more recently and going forward, that's something I got to continue to do. Set a good example, learn how to have good communication skills. You know, a lot of people, they don't grow up in households that have strong communication. So you may be getting an
Exactly.
employee, and it's a small little conversation that you guys might need to have for it to be a great experience, and you guys just flourish together, but they don't know how to have that conversation, you know.
Hmm.
So it's a big responsibility, but I do think that the first step for me is just understanding, you know, uh what that means is to be a leader, and how to effectively be a leader. And it's almost like you're a doctor. You got to figure out what's wrong, you got to diagnose it, and then be able to come in and say, here's what the solution is, and here's our care plan to go forward with the company. So
Man, man, that's awesome, man. So now, that man, that was great. I mean, I love things on leadership and anything dealing with personal development because I believe that's so important. And I heard you, speaking about really, the whole personal development side and how, it's not really about the compensation so much anymore. It's just about, you just getting better. Like, what's that come from?
well, I think in the long run, you know, the more quality of a system that you have, the better, you know, that system is going to produce for you. So you think about a vehicle, for instance, you know, you put time, energy, and effort into keeping it maintained, making sure the oil is changed, you know, making sure everything is done properly and on time. The vehicle will last you a long time.
Mhm.
Our bodies, our you know, our mental state, our entire existence is really based on that as well. So maintenance, you know, knowing how to maintain ourselves, knowing how to keep ourselves running, you know, knowing how to be productive and, you know, continue to stay that way. I think that's a really big thing. So um, you know, like I said, it's these are not things that I knew when we first started, and I'm still learning how to do, you know, those particular things. But I think just as much as you have to maintain a car, you know, for your own mental health and things of that nature, you've got to, keep a certain amount of maintenance and learn how to, keep yourself up, so to speak.
Most definitely, man. And so, like, so now, I mean, being in the junk business, I mean, I know it's probably a lot of stuff in the industry that probably people don't even know or understand. Like, what are some things that probably homeowners just don't know about junk, or just don't, or maybe some fascinating things just about, junk, or things that they have, or or whatever, on that end. Like, you got any kind of like interesting things, like, because I know it's got to be some stuff like.
Uh, yeah, I think more so for us, like the things that I think people don't really understand about that. This is just going to be entrepreneurship in general, but more specifically to the junk business is how expensive it can be to dispose of items. So,
Mm.
from a business perspective, we have to keep certain requirements. We have to keep insurance, workers' comp insurance. We've got umbrella. We've got commercial auto insurance, general liability insurance. I think I said workers' comp.
Mhm.
So we have to keep those things. We have to keep these trucks, which have payments, and the parts are expensive, and they're coming from the other side of the world.
Mhm.
Um, More so on the disposal side of things, we have to pay to get items disposed of, and it can range. I mean, it's based on weight. So um, when we go to the landfill, they weigh us. So they weigh us in, and we dump the trash out, and then they give us an out weight, and whatever the difference is, we pay for that per ton, and that can add up very quickly as well. So I think a lot of people just don't understand how expensive it is to just operate, to be able to get in front of a client. It costs us to be able to advertise to them, for us to be able to like just show up to their house costs money and fuel and paying employees, things of that nature. I think that's just like a practical thing that people don't really think about. More so on like the fun things of it. Um, I think people just don't really realize and understand how much of particular items are out there. So like sometimes we pick it up, just like the number one thing I probably say we pick up is mattresses.
Yeah,
I mean,
I can.
yeah, I've seen so many mattresses. It's just like I don't. It's
And I
crazy. I
don't
couldn't
want to
count.
know all the mattresses you don't see, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's like a big ticket item: mattresses, couches. Let me think of something else that we always pick up, man. A lot of people throw out um, washers and dryers. I think the table and chairs, those, IKEA furniture.
I
That
see
stuff
it
got a
first.
pretty short, yeah, it's got a short lifespan. But something that people really don't think about, like how much is out there, is people still have those big like floor model TVs or the big like
Yeah,
fatback TVs. Like
from the
we pick
90s,
those up on it, yeah, from the 80s, from the
the
70s. Like,
80s too.
yeah,
Wow,
yeah.
that's crazy.
Yeah, so I mean, you got some people using it like furniture, like they sit
Okay.
pictures and stuff on top of it, and so
Man,
um,
that got to be crazy getting up that up on the truck, man. Those things look like
yeah,
they cost like, I mean, they weigh like 1,000 pounds.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, they're super 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 heavy for sure. Yeah,
man, that's crazy, man. Well, I got a couple more questions for you before we end. My one question is now that you're in the game, and as an entrepreneur, like, what would be some tips that you would give another entrepreneur, maybe just coming into the business as an entrepreneur, either specifically in the trades or just in general, as an entrepreneur? Like, what would be some things that you would kind of tell them to kind of give them some insight?
um, so my piece of advice would be, first, always to start with a business plan. If you're starting from scratch, start with a plan. Do plenty of research. Ask people that are already in the industry that you want to start in, things that you might need to know. And if you feel like people won't share that information with you because they feel like you're their competition, call
Mhm.
somebody out of state. So,
Okay.
if you want to start a trade business like junk removal or plumbing or whatever the case, call somebody in Tennessee and ask them, or Alabama or whatever the case, wherever you want to call, just call.
Mhm.
But seek out resources that you have around you. You're not recreating anything unless it's got to do with technology. Pretty much, if you're starting with a service business, you're not recreating anything when it comes to that. So, ask people that already have experience in that industry. That's my first piece.
Okay.
And another piece of advice I probably would just say is going to be understand that being an entrepreneur and starting a business is going to take time. So
Okay.
be willing to commit to it 100%, and understand that it's gonna take you some time. It's not gonna be something to get rich quick. You're gonna run into unexpected things that you didn't plan for. Understand that that's going to be something that comes along the way. Expect it. Don't get down by it. Don't be discouraged by it. You shouldn't be, because you should have expected it, and it should already be a part of your plan.
Correct.
So, that's, yeah. Those are like my two big pieces. Just plan ahead and plan for things to go wrong. That way, you're not going to be, upset that something did go wrong. Put that in the plan. So,
Surprise. Totally, totally, totally. And I have one last double edged question is what is most the thing that you would say went the worst, and then what was the thing that you would say was your greatest triumph as an entrepreneur?
um, I think the thing that has gone the worst for me probably has been keeping people too long.
Okay.
Uh, Twice. It's happened twice,
Okay.
and both times it's ended up being bad. So, two employees come to mind specifically, and it's just, we probably could have made a lot more progress faster if we had not have had them slowing us down.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's probably just been one of the bigger things as far as failure. As far as biggest achievement, um, I think it's kind of hard to like put a finger on it, because we're doing a lot of great things,
Mm-hmm.
um, and it's a lot of things that like in entrepreneurship, there is no celebration. Like if somebody gets promoted at work, you may throw a party for them or something like
Yeah.
that, or if they
Yeah.
graduate from something, or they get a new job. There is no celebration for any milestones I've seen in entrepreneurship. So get another truck is like, nobody's throwing a party, nobody's sending me a
Oh,
card
got
or a cake.
another
Yeah,
truck.
yeah, so but I think it's not one particular thing, but it's like a particular topic. There are times where I meet people that know me that I don't know. Like they're like, "Oh, you're Jordan. You're the owner of Southside." And I had one guy. He was like, "Man, you just don't realize how many people your company has influenced."
Mm,
So he was like, "It's two people. One guy, we were at a convention, and he was like, 'Yeah, you're the reason I started my company, because I saw that, you know the the image of what you did for the community.'" And he was talking about, especially for like the African American community, that was something that I felt like we needed to do in Pittsburgh. So
mm-hmm.
he started his company kind of based on what he saw us doing.
Mm-hmm.
Another person, he came up to me, man, and he had a flat tire. So I went over to help him. Like, "Hey, man, you good? You need anything?" He was like, "Yeah, man. I know who you are. You guys are like the biggest company on the south side of Atlanta now." He was giving us a lot of praise, and I was like, "Oh, okay. You know us?" Like, I didn't know. And he was
Mm-hmm.
like, "Yeah, you guys are the king of the South." And
Okay, I like that.
that to me, that was like, man, that was just kind of like, wow. Like I never really thought about it being that, because you don't think about yourself like that.
Mm-hmm.
I sit at home and I have my meetings, and I'm developing my master plan, and I'm doing all of these things. But on the outside, somebody looking in at our operation, and they're seeing, how we're doing things, it looks a lot different, I guess, to them. So hearing that's just kind of like, yeah, yeah. I'm like Ti, I'm the king of the South. So
That's good. I like.
yeah, I
Hey
like that.
man, listen, man. I love it, man. I love it. Listen. So, how does somebody, if they want to get in touch with you, man, like, what's the website address?
Just southsidejunkremoval.com.
Okay, southsidejunkremoval.com, man. And so y'all can check Jordan out at southsidejunkremoval.com. Man, I'm just super excited to have you here, man. This has been amazing, man. I just love to hear stories of entrepreneurs. Like, going and their journeys, coming from from the Clayco, man, coming from Jonesboro, man, to in the paramedics field of the firefighting, fighting fires, and almost falling through the floor the first time you on the doing the firefighting, man, to rolling into the lawn care, man, then rolling, figuring out about junk, getting into it, all the stuff that you had breaking down, but you just kept going, and then from that point, man, you one vehicle to another vehicle to one successful client to another successful client, and man, now you're here, man, the king of junk on the South Side, man. So listen, I'm super excited about that, man, and I love that story, man. That's a great thing, and it's just a great example of why entrepreneurship is alive and well. And if you are willing to put forth effort, if you're willing to develop yourself, if you're willing to lead, if you're willing to take chances and not give up, you can be successful, right? And so, and I think Jordan Thomas is a testament to that. And I want to say, my friend, thank you so much for joining me on the Entrepreneur Spotlight, man. You were definitely a small business and an entrepreneur that we needed to hear about. And man, I'm just excited for people to see this, to hear this, and to learn more about you, Southside Junk Removal, and just how to just thrive in the small business space.
Yeah, man. Well, thank you so much for having me, and look forward to working with you guys again in the future.
Man, most definitely. Hey, man, this is JR McNair. Once again, this is the Entrepreneur Spotlight, man. I want y'all to go out here, stop doubting, and just get out here and make it happen, man. Y'all be safe, be blessed. We out.